everybody. This is Dr. Novak again. I just thought I would give an update and the movement of the Betta tank that I have. I did a video on this, but I finished it. One thing I wanted to bring up is what I did and why I brought it in the house out of the lanai. First of all, it's starting to get a little cold here in Florida in the mornings, and already the goldfish aquarium out in the lanai is already 68 degrees. Well, that's going to be a little too cold for these guys, so I brought them in to the house where it's going to stay warmer. Even in the winter, it will stay at least 75 degrees. So I'll tell you what I did, how I finished it off, and what I'm using. First of all, the stand here. The stand here is from Wayfair, and I bought this stand. It's about 29 inches high. It's got real imitation fake faux wood here. The reason I bought this versus real wood is because it says in the advertisement that this is made for water. So if water gets on it, it's not going to warp it. It's not going to hurt it because of the lamination that they have on top of it. So for the price, it was cheaper than buying a fish stand or something else. So, and it's made out of metal, and it's versatile because it's got adjustable feet at the very end. So if you need to level it, and on the lanai, that's perfect. That I could level it because the lanai has a cobblestone floor. So I can take this out in the summertime, move it to the lanai, and just make sure it's level and put the aquarium back on it. Now the aquarium itself, I finally finished it. Well, one thing, if you remember, I bought the light here, and here is the original wood lid. But as you notice, I cut a hole in the center of it. I made a hole off on an angle for the airline. Okay, this goes off at an angle. If you can see in there, there's your airline. So instead of the airline coming over the top, I put it this way because it's higher. And if you remember that video, I did put lights in this lid, but I didn't want to do that. I was waiting because of moisture and stuff like that. It can't be usable. But what I did is I actually took you can take a butter lid or whatever and just traced on the underside of this a circle. Like I said, doesn't have to be complicated. Butter lid, whatever diameter you want this to be. And then I got a coping saw, or what they call hand jigsaw or coping saw. That's one of these, in case you're not familiar with it. You can buy these at the hardware store. They're inexpensive. My father taught me how to use one of these when I was a child. But anyhow, this saw right here, and you're able to drill a hole in here, and then take the blade out of that, put it through the hole, and then cut your circle out. And then I used 60 grit sandpaper to sand it, then 100 grit, and then 220 grit to smooth it out. So once all that was done, I found a stain that matched the bottom and top. I'll show you that right here. And this stain is Minwax Polyshield. You see the color of it? Well, this has the polyurethane and stain in it. It's all in one step to make it simpler, so you don't have to stain it and then wait for the stain to dry and then put polyurethane on it. So I redid the bottom, used it on the bottom to seal it, and I sealed the top a couple times with it to make sure any moisture would not get to the wood. This wood is a softer wood. It's not a hard wood, so it was easy to saw by hand because it is softer wood. I don't know what kind of wood it is, but it's very lightweight. It's not like a balsa wood, of course, but it's not like a gum wood or butter wood, or I don't know what it is. It's just a very soft wood. It's not bamboo. I know that. So it wasn't that hard to cut out in case anyone's thinking of doing a project with one of these. But the whole thing came out pretty good. I didn't know if I should bolt the light directly to the table here or just keep it on this. But that's the way that light came. The light came with this stand. This was from Amazon. So anyway, I set it up. I reset it up. I took the sand out. If you remember when I did this, it had sand, and the sand went all the way to the bottom. Well, I decided to make it into a plenum. As you can see the bubbler there. It's not bubbling very fast. And I'm going to tell you how I cycled it. What I did is when I first set it up, I didn't put the fish in it. I put the fish in another aquarium to hold them over after I got this aquarium torn down. And this is a Lee under gravel filter, and it fits this perfect. And I squeezed it through the top and cut the tubing, that 5/8 tubing. I cut that down to about 3.5 inches and put the airline tubing and everything else. But all I was doing is having algae problems. If you remember, I think I even talked about it. All that tank did was have algae problems. I cleaned it. I used hydrogen peroxide. The algae came back. Cleaned it again. Algae came back. Cleaned it again. Finally, that was it. I had enough of the sand sitting on the bottom. It just was not working without a big hassle. I tried to wait it out, and it just was not working for me. So I threw the towel in, took everything out, cleaned off all the plants that had algae on them, and decided to use 100% kitty litter. That's what this is, 100% kitty litter now. This is the baked kitty litter, and I got this at Florida. The good thing about this kitty litter, it's the bake. If you put it in between your fingers and try to squeeze it, no, you can't. A pair of pliers can squeeze it, but if you try with your hands, no, it's like little stones almost. So this has made a perfect substrate, and makes a perfect substrate. It's 100% kitty litter. It hasn't been cut with anything. There's no sand in it. There's no dirt in it. It's 100% kitty litter because I'm doing a little test in the antique tank, as you know, with the plants. I have a pot with 100% kitty litter, no laterite, no nothing, and that plant has grown great. It is going, that's all I'm using. It's in an open cell basket with kitty litter. The plants don't look very good because when I cleaned them off, spraying them with water, I think they went into a shock. These crypt did, so they're starting to get crypt rot, or they're rotting away a little bit. They went through pretty traumatic for them. Plus, I had an Anubias in here just full of algae. And I took that and I just squirted everything down and tried to get the algae off. Believe it or not, I put the Anubias in the antique aquarium. I'll show you that. Here's the Anubias that I took out of the aquarium. And look at this. Even though this Anubias gets direct sunlight and it's in the antique tank using the BCB basket as its only means of filter. Look at that. All the algae is gone. All of it. Now I squirted it off. There was still, you still had little hair algae on it, but it's completely gone. In fact, there's even a new leaf growing, if you can kind of see that new leaf growing. And here's the plant that's planted in 100%. I don't know if you can see very good. That's the plant that's planted in, look at that, 100% kitty litter. How nice that's growing. And here's the plant that's planted in 100% dirt with, nutrients in it. That's that Miracle Grow dirt. This is 100% kitty litter. So, as you can see, even though this is getting direct sunlight, has CO2, all the algae left. It's gone. Where when I was using the sand, This thing was just covered full of algae. The algae had to be as long as 5-6 inches. And like I said, 3 times I took this out, cleaned it, even sprayed it with hydrogen peroxide. Every time the algae just came back all over the plants. So getting back to the tank here. The fish are doing well. I have a female. This is a koi. I have a half moon, what they call a king Betta. This is a half moon king Betta. Now, I just took the plant out of my 90-gallon. That plant, if you remember, that's a plant I bought at like PetSmart. It's called flame moss. And you buy it in bags. It's going to look like this. Okay. And this is it came in a bag, and this was the sticker on it. You buy that at PetSmart or Petco. I think it was, I'm just guessing, $9 for a bag of this flame moss. Now, I've had this flame moss in the 90-gallon, and I put it in my other aquarium. I like it. It seems to grow very well. I'm not having a problem with it. So I took some out of the 90 because sometimes I have to trim it up. No big deal. And I threw it in here to give the fish some hiding spots, because the crypts there's a crypt in there, but it's to see how it's rotting, because I think I overdid it when I sprayed it trying to get the algae out, because it was just a pain with the sand. For some reason, putting the sand directly on the bottom of here, having the sand as thick as you see here, so it's just as thick, and having that sand directly on the bottom without using a plenum of any sort is, it just wasn't working out. Another thing I want to bring up, you see how shiny this is? That's because I redid it with that poly shade Minwax. So I wanted to redo this because now, since I had the tank, I realized that things get wet. So I thought I'm going to make sure I give everything another coat of polyurethane and everything to protect it from the wet. But one thing I'll bring this up right now. The kitty litter. I have 2 complaints. These are big complaints. They have to be the #1 complaint about the kitty litter. Now, I'll tell you what it is. People say my pH is too low. It went down to 6.5, 6.3. It's too low. I did my tank with kitty litter. It's too low. The next biggest complaint I get with the kitty litter is my pH is too high. It went to 8.5, and I want it to be lower, and the kitty litter raised my pH. It's funny how we're different people live in different areas, that the kitty litter itself is changing the pH. When I set this up, my pH was like 6.3. So I did a water change. Now, no fish are in it yet. I tested out 6.3. Okay, pH is low. And did another water change, still low. And then I decided, well, I'll take a little bit of water out, and I made like a gallon of water with a tablespoon of baking soda. And that's what I tell people. If it's too low, try that. Put baking soda in it. And now the pH, I put a little too much baking soda in it, and now the pH is 8.3. Okay, so I'll show you what I do to test this, how I test the fish. But now it's 8.3. I guess if I do another water change, I won't put any baking soda in, and I'll probably lower that. Anyhow, the pH of this, I use a pH meter on this, and this is what I use. And this will tell your TDS. I don't know if you can see that. Let's see if we can see that. There, TDS, pH, and temperature. So this one meter does all my aquariums for me. You just turn it on, and when it's out of the water, it's not going to be there. Now it's 0. It's 76.8 degrees and it's 0. All you have to do is put it into the aquarium and it will show you exactly what your pH is. They even give you calibration fluids with it. But this is an easy way to tell your pH. And you know what? All my aquariums are about the same. This one's a little high now, but all of them are around in the 7.5 or whatever. So let me show you what I mean. Okay, so I'm going to show you what you do is this thing's on. Okay, you put it into the water. You can stir it up a little bit. And they got a hold button. If you press it, there. So it's 8.33. I put a little bit too much into it. It's 76.8 degrees and a pH of 8.33. Remember, that was down to 6.3. So I miscalculated on the baking soda and put a little too much in for such a small container. Anyway, that is how you do it. Okay, the last thing I want to bring up about this, and this was the big surprise. If you look at this container, if you look at it, you'll see it's bowed. It almost looks like an old-fashioned street lamp. You know, it has that kind of shape. But one thing that I noticed with this is that was a big surprise to me is not only the clarity of the glass, okay, but it magnifies. So once you have this container and you put water in it, the fish actually look bigger than what they are. Like, look at the size of the Betta here, this king Betta. I mean, this thing looks like it's at least 4, I would say 3 to 4 inches. But it magnifies it, but it doesn't distort the image. See, if you look at the plants or anything, it's not distorting or contorting the images like a fun house. Everything looks right. However, everything looks a lot bigger than what it would be in real life. If you look, the bubbler is a good example. Look at the bubbler, how big it looks. Yet the bubbler is not that big. It's it's only a 3/8 tubing. And we all know airline tubing. So one thing that I notice is that this container does make things look bigger than what they actually are, which in most aquariums they don't do that, which is a really neat thing because you would only get a little bit of distortion at the very top here, but otherwise everything's nice and clear. It just makes your fish look bigger. So if you made like a tank like this and decided to go with little bitty mini fish, let's say you're not going to do this, you're going to put tropical fish in here, which you could, small ones, killifish, something like that, this would be perfect. It would actually make them bigger than what they actually are so you can see them better. You can get better detail of the fish because of that. And look at these fish. They look very healthy in here. Now, I'm going to tell you how I started this. I took all the fish out, very patient, take the fish out. I took it out, put the kitty litter in, that's 100% kitty litter, and started up the bubbler and had the bubbler going a lot faster than what it is, okay? And then I put a cap full of API Quick Start, okay? That would be this. And they have a cap on top. And that's what I use, API Quick Start. Now, believe it or not, I have the bubbler going a lot faster than what it's going now. And I just use the Quick Start to start off the aquarium and have it going. There's no fish in it. So that way, if the bubbler's going faster, it will be able to bring the bacteria down into the substrate. Then I had to empty it, of course. I brought it in here. I worked on the lid. and things like that. And I had to empty it, and then I put the plants back in, refilled it, and I put another cap full of that quick start in it. And then I had the bubbler go faster, a lot faster, for at least 8 to 12 hours overnight. And then the next morning I came and then slowed down the bubbler to this. That way you get that quick start, the heterotrophic bacteria inside your substrate. Okay, just like if you're seeding something. And then after that morning, I put the plants in. These were already in, but I put the fish in, put the plants in, and they're doing great. Look at that. Nothing went into stress. The fish didn't go into stress. The male doesn't really chase the female very much at all. I feed them their Betta food, and so they seem to be happy in this little aquarium. I have a pump here, and I have a bleed-off valve over there. Can you see that copper or brass bleed-off valve? That bleed-off valve is probably from the 1960s. I've been using it since the 60s. Hey, they used to make them out of brass, and they'd last forever, that bleed-off valve. But here's another thing I want to show you is right here. You see that right here? I bought this at Lowe's, and that's actually my I can't call it, I guess I could call it a timer. You set your lights on a timer, and this you can buy at Lowe's, but this gets connected up to your phone. So now you can set it up as, you can turn it on and off, or you can put it on a timer. Instead of using the old-fashioned timers where you have to manually set them up at the timer and then you plug them in, and then you always forget how to set them up, right? So I set that one up. You set it up off your phone. There's an app. You just go off. Everybody's now accustomed to apps. If you want the lights to turn on early, you can. You want them to turn off sooner, you can. Another good thing about this too, I wanted to tell you before I end this, is a lot of people would say, oh, I like this, but I'd like to put it in my bedroom. But I don't want to hear those bubbles. Turn the bubbles off at night. You can buy one of those timers, have your light on a timer, and have your air pump on a timer. And or you can use one of these timers like this to come on in the morning and shut off. But let's say if you went to bed early, you go on your phone and just shut it off. Because if the bubbler here shuts off for overnight, okay, don't worry about it, because you have a plenum underneath there. This is just to help the plenum to move water slowly, so you're guaranteed to have water slowly. So if this is in your bedroom, you turn the bubbler off so it doesn't bother you when you're sleeping, and when you wake up in the morning, it would automatically come on, or you can turn it on yourself. So that's the good thing about this, is it can be put in any room in the house, and if you need to shut off the bubbler because it bothers you, turn it off. Go to sleep. But in the morning, just turn it back on again. And as you do see, even though it's bubbling pretty slow, look, you can see water movement, very slow water. So the water is still moving. It's not stagnated water. The water is moving very slowly, but it's not moving so much where the bettas are having trouble swimming, because they don't really like fast moving water. But as you can see by the plants moving, you can see that there is movement, and it does create movement inside the aquarium itself. This is 2.6 gallons. I bought it off the internet. I bought it off of Amazon, in case you're new and this is your first time here. And that's it. So anyhow, this is Dr. Novak. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And until next time, happy fish keeping.